ITM recommends that 5 to 20% of your overall investment portfolio be placed in precious metals. However, the decision as to how much to allocate is strictly up to you and/or your financial advisor. You need to be aware that my opinions may or may not reflect the opinions of ITM Trading. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that grow up around them will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent they conquered. That was a warning from Thomas Jefferson back in the 1800s. More recently, we had a warning in 2008. Welcome to the ITM Trading Educational Webinar Series, A Peek Beneath the Skin of the Markets. I'm Lynette Zhang, Chief Market Analyst here at ITM Trading since 2002. Since 1964, I've been a collector and a banker and a stockbroker, so it should be pretty clear that I have been groomed for this moment in time. And frankly, I'm on a mission. My mission is to convert financial noise into understandable language. Today, I'm going to show you that the retirement tsunami has already begun. But this is something that we've known about since the 70s. I mean, I can remember as a 17-year-old girl thinking, well, Social Security is not going to be there for me by the time I'm ready to take it. Well, I'm 62 now, and I think that that's pretty true. So we've known about it since the 70s. Why was nothing done? Well, we'll look at that, but also I want you to see that the real crisis is even bigger than that retirement tsunami. And that could just mask the real crisis. So we're going to look at that as well. But also understand that the bigger the crisis, the bigger the opportunity. So let's begin. In 2013, over 74 million baby boomers began to retire. And in fact, you have at least 6,100 Americans that are turning 65 daily. Studies show that more than half of those baby boomers have less than $10,000 to retire. In fact, further studies have shown that we're roughly 14 trillion short in private retirement savings. And since the baby boomers are all growing older every day, they're also living a lot longer. And we know that the average cost of medical care grows as we age, even not taking into account inflation. So these baby boomers, most of them are counting on the system that they've contributed to their entire working lives. But the challenge is that these benefits are paid out of current contributions. So any excess that was deposited into this system has been borrowed and spent. It's just not there. It should be pretty easy to see that taxpayer-funded social programs are out of money. It really is just that simple. But if you take into account the promises to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the U.S. debt notionally would be in excess of 100 trillion, and the debt to GDP more than 1,000%. So if you look at it from your level, that's like your debt being 1,000 times what your annual income is. You'd probably have a bit of a challenge meeting those debt requirements. On top of that, you have fewer workers available to pay these benefits for a growing host of baby boomers. Now, you may think that you are entitled to this. After all, you've paid into it forever. However, from the Social Security Administration website, this was tested in court and a precedence established. And they were very succinct in saying that Congress can and does change the rules. And also they let us know that Social Security is not a contractual right. So keep that in mind, because this year that we're already in, benefits go exponential as more and more baby boomers retire. And that's nominal. We really don't know what these requirements are going to be when we take into account the rate of inflation. So not only are taxpayer-funded plans critically underfunded, so are government pensions, whether they're state or on a federal level. You can see that they are severely and critically underfunded, and also that the promises keep soaring. So 2007, we were paying out $292 billion, but this year we're close to $2 trillion. And when you think about how these assets are positioned, you have more than half of them in the second most expensive stock market in history. The second most expensive, and you have 30% in the most expensive bond market in history. The rest is in private placements, and that's not even liquid either. So hopefully you can start to see the challenge that we're having. In the meantime, the response to paying these promises would be greater taxes. And one area, real estate is considered immovable property. So recently, Chicago, you could see how much they increased the property taxes to pay the benefits of those already retired. So if more and more of the city and state and government budgets have to go to paying these promises, that means that there's less money for current workers. So taxes have to go up, benefits and services will be reduced. Well, if you think that it's better off someplace else, then you move. And what do? You take your tax dollars with you, and that exacerbates the problem even more. But lest you think it's just government plans that are critically underfunded, oh no. The private plans are also critically underfunded. And in this case, the government had to do some legislation. So we'll take a look at that. But first, you can see that the private plans have been underfunded since 2000. You had a little blip up during the real estate boom, but this problem is clearly getting worse and worse and worse. And so as corporations are required to pay out those benefits, and those benefits keep going up, it impacts their earnings per share, and we must not let that happen. So in 2014, Congress passed Law 113235, and that actually allowed corporations to reduce and defer mandatory contributions to their pension plans. Now, how this fixes the problem is beyond me, but that was what they did in 2014. The union plans, the multi-employer plans, are also in trouble, and you can see that they were underfunded starting in 2000 as well. These are the assets, these are the liabilities. So even with markets at this level, you're not even keeping pace with the growth in liabilities. In addition to that, you have fewer and fewer members paying into these pension plans. You can see that they're lower than they were back in the 30s. What's the government solution? Well, that same public law, 2014 Public Law 113235, but in the case of the multi-employer plans, they passed legislation that eliminated a union participant from suing and challenging the legality of benefit reductions. Oh, goody. So how this has impacted the unions? Well, people that are already retiring are pinching pennies because these benefits have to be cut. They're underfunded. There's not enough money. 3 years later, and specifically on March 1st, the Teamsters Pension Fund was the very first one of its kind to actually run out of money. Now, think about this. This is the Teamsters, arguably one of the most powerful and well-run pension organizations in the country, and they are out of money. So members who've been paying into this with every single paycheck thought they had a guarantee. Surprise! That guarantee went away because this is a contract. And any contract is only as good as the counterparty to that contract. And they cannot pay you money that they do not have. So we can see that this issue is already underway. And then the question is, so who's going to manage this pension crisis tsunami? Ah, well, the government agency, Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, PBGC. Except that, oh, my goodness, they're on the Government Accountability Office's high risk list. Uh-oh, why? Well, number one, they're among the largest federal government corporations, and they insure or guarantee the pension benefits of 40 million Americans. So they're pretty important. This is from the same GAO report. These are the private plans, so you can see they've been underfunded for a while. And then these are the multi-employer plans. And you can really see that what started as a trickle has certainly become a tsunami. And in fact, for 2016, they were underfunded to the tune of $79.4 billion. 44 billion of that in just the last 3 years. So they became severely underfunded by almost twice, more than twice, 44 billion and underfunded in 3 years. Can you see how this problem is growing? Plus, they anticipate, the PBGC anticipates that they're facing another 243 billion plus in future pension exposure. So maybe you can see why they're on the high risk list. They are out of money, and this is the government safety net. So you have to ask the question, what's the government most likely to do? And my